3, 2, 1, 8.
On KBLA, James Farr's on the mic, lifting up the people, keeping hope in sight. With Altadena spirit, he fights the good fight, speaking truth to power, shining the light. Try to break us, but we're standing tall. Lost our homes, but we ain't lost at all. Through the smoke and the ashes, we see the sun. Altadena's fight has just begun.
Just begun. Begun.
We'll rise again, we'll build it strong. Through the struggle, yes, we belong. Hand in hand, through dust and pain, Altadena's heart remains.
Live from Leimert Park, KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to the conversation live, Altadena Rising. I'm your host, James Farr. Thank you and welcome into the day's program. I appreciate you allowing me into your garage, into your kitchens, into your cars this morning, wherever you're listening to. Thank you so much for allowing us in. This is the show of record, and we are chronicling for the nation the devastating fire that took place last January in Altadena, California. I'm so excited to be with you this morning, and we got a full program ahead of you over the next hour. Before we get into the program, let me invite you to like us on social media. That's at KBLA Talk 1580 across all your social media platforms. I invite you to follow me at James Farr Live as well across social media platforms. And if you haven't already, go ahead and download that app, right? When you go into that app store, download it at KBLA Talk 1580. That's an excellent way for you to keep up with us. Some of you are listening locally. Some of you are listening across the country and across the world. The app or the web is the best place to do that. We got a full program today, and in the bottom half of our hour, FEMA representative, their spokesperson, is back in the seat. We got to put them in the hot seat one more time because there's a March 31st deadline that's coming up for people to apply for FEMA benefits. And we want to make sure that you know what you need to know as this update comes up. But in the top half of our hour, imagine that you were a renter. Imagine that your elderly grandparents lost everything in their home in the fire. You're now somewhere sandwiched between providing for your young family as well as looking out for your abuela and your papi. Tony Cosby is going to be in the seat, along with civil rights attorney Bradley Gage of Brad Gage Law. We're going to look at what resources are available. We'll also talk about Tony's situation, but it's not all doom and gloom. There are some positive stories that you'll hear about in the coming weeks on this show. I want to give you a little bit of something I heard positive from some folks. Simeon, go ahead and let's roll in this first clip.
This too shall pass, because we know that truly this too shall pass. We want to come back bigger. We want to come back stronger. We want to definitely come back together.
That was the voice of Jarvis Emerson. There's hope in Altadena. Folks aren't all in the doom and gloom. But then there's the issues with the renters who've lost everything. Let's go ahead and roll in this next clip, Simeon.
Drastically, my grandparents lost their home. There's a huge shock. The shock came, and then the grief came, and we're heartbroken. but the community support has allowed us to rebuild our heart situation. So the only way that we're getting any kind of aid and awareness is we maxed out with FEMA, we maxed out with Red Cross, we go to as many nonprofit organizations as we can. But what is really difficult is they're 86 years old and 87 years old. If you're not sitting down, you might want to sit down for this. They got the home for a $1,000 down payment, and they bought the home in full for $23,000. Owned it outright.
That was the voice of Tony Cosby. And when we come forward, you'll hear from Tony Cosby and his attorney, Bradley Gage. We're going to talk about where his grandparents are right now, what he's facing. Only on KBLA Talk 1580. We got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power. We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
And welcome forward. You're listening to the conversation live, Altadena Rising, only on KBLA Talk 1580. And I'm joined this morning by two people who, they got a lot to talk about. Imagine your home is paid for, you have no fire insurance, you're well into your 80s, retirement looks so much different. Now you're faced with paying market rate rent. Perhaps you had, a property insurance bill, a few $1,000s max, right? Now you're faced with paying upwards of $30,000, possibly even $40,000 a year. Let me say that again. $40,000 a year, and your home has been paid off for over 30 years. Tony Cosby is in the seat. Tony was recently, he's a newlywed. He has a young family, and he is managing, as I said before we came forward, that he's managing having to take care of his young family as well as his grandparents. Tony, welcome into the seat. How you doing this morning?
Oh, man, I'm doing excellent. I'm so glad to be able to be a part of this. Thank you for giving me a space to have a voice.
Absolutely, Tony. I really want to start with you, Tony. How are your grandparents doing now?
Now they're a lot more hopeful than in the beginning. In the beginning, it was just hopeless. Nothing at all. Nothing. No plan, no idea, no direction. Now there's actually light at the end of the tunnel. So we built up our GoFundMe. They built up with FEMA, maxed that out, and then they've been getting community support financially.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about, we heard some sound from you a little bit earlier because I ran into you at a community event, right? And you said that they bought the house for $23,000. How long ago was that?
That was over 54 years ago.
54 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was paid off?
Paid off in full at $23,000.
$23,000. So where are they at now? How are they making it?
Yeah. So that's how God works in mysterious ways. They have a nephew who just so happened to have an empty duplex in downtown Los Angeles, and he put them in there. That's just God's hand on point. Mm-hmm. But without that, they would have been at the shelter or in my living room, which I opened that up to them as an option. Hey, stay with us. We'll find a bigger apartment. But God opened up that door. But there's so many people who don't have that door be open for them.
Dan, I know you were out at the convention center. You're a pretty vocal person, right, Tony? I think I was inside at an event and I heard you outside, right? What was your experience going down to the convention center? Then, the convention center is where the initial shelter was provided by, emergency responders. What was your experience over there?
In the beginning of the convention, it was amazing, in my opinion, because communities, people were helping each other. Mm-hmm. They had free food out there. They had donations, endless donations. They were feeding everybody, mm-hmm. and it was an open experience. But my personal experience, I believe when Red Cross took over, the first thing that happened, the police came and kicked every free food vendor off. Said, all you free food vendors, you have to go.
Did they say why?
No. It was the same day that Red Cross took over, and I was in the back folding the donated clothes. And while I was folding the donated clothes, the head came back. He said, "Hey, Red Cross is taking over in about 2 hours. They're going to take all these donations and put them in their storage. They're going to be gone. So if you guys want something, you guys get what you guys need to give. But we're going to take all these donations, and we're going to kick everyone who's not going to be with Red Cross out."
So if your grandparents didn't have a nephew that had a place for them to go to, what would have happened to them? I mean, because they're, 86, you said? 87?
86 and 87.
What would have happened to them?
That situation would have been very dark because they didn't have fire insurance. They would have had to wait for FEMA to send the first check. So they would have had to – they didn't have much money in their bank account. They had to turn off their fire insurance because they didn't have enough money. They were saving for over 10 years to fix the roof. Now we don't have a roof problem. The termite problem's gone too. And we're saving, and I was going to help them pay for that. But we didn't talk about the important things that we should have been talking about at the dinner table. We were cracking jokes, enjoying life, not thinking that this could happen. But we didn't talk about what should we do in case of an emergency.
Yeah. I'm going to turn to you, Attorney Bradley Gage. I mean, you've, in your 40-year career as an attorney, and you've litigated, somewhere around $5 billion in settlements. That's a pretty impressive resume. Is the situation that Tony's grandparents in, is that uncommon, or what are you seeing? Because I know you're representing other victims of the fire.
Well, we see two groups of people. One group that is insured and one group that is not insured. The folks that are insured, sometimes they're getting what they need, sometimes they're not.
There's sometimes, I thought that's what insurance was for. So, kind of unpack that for me.
Well, insurance companies will give you an offer of assistance, but they try to save money for themselves because it adds to their profits. That's what their goal, unfortunately, usually is. What we do as lawyers is we hold the insurance companies accountable and seek to get all of the insurance coverage that victims are entitled to. And even we will happily speak to anyone who's having problems with their insurance company for free, a 15, 30-minute conversation to help them along the path to see if that is able to get them what they need. Sometimes that works, and we feel good about helping the community, and other times it doesn't help, and then we can assist to hold them accountable.
Let's talk about those who are uninsured, right? Let's look at a situation with Tony's grandparents, right? And unfortunately, there are thousands that are in this space. What does the future look like for them, right? I mean, you have no insurance. Is FEMA the answer?
Well, FEMA is the answer if you go there before March 31st. Once this month is over, that assistance is going to be over. And a lot of the other programs with the SBA and the Red Cross, so this public support is disappearing. And some of the other public support that we might have had under the past president is disappearing now. So families are in dire straits. What lawyers can do to help is we already have filed lawsuits against Southern California Edison. We've already been in court many times on this fire, and we are forming the committees for discovery, experts, things like that.
Let's back that up, because just the other day there were about 130 lawyers in court, right? And some people may not understand, should I be a part of a class action lawsuit or should I seek individual representation? What makes the most sense? What's happening in the court system right now?
I think you're going to find that individuals have to have an individual case because everyone's damage is different. And some of the other circumstances for them are different as well. But the actions are going to be coordinated. What we've done is we filed for our clients already because there's a big benefit in being in the first group of individuals who file a lawsuit. The court knows who you are. You get onto the committees to gather the evidence, and cases usually are first in, first out. So the sooner that you can file a lawsuit, probably the safer you will be, even though the deadlines from a statute of limitations period are long in the future. So we've been working to protect our clients that way.
What's a realistic expectation? You filed a lawsuit very recently. You believe, and many others, we've seen the video evidence, right, of the transformer sparking up in the canyon, and it's believed to have started this fire. What's that process now going forward? Because if they don't have insurance, right? Most people at best have only gotten $700 check from FEMA. Martin Gordon last week on this program said it's a rush to fill out and a hurry up to wait. What do those people do if FEMA isn't kicking in and they don't have insurance? Are they just, I hate to say it, SOL? I mean, what does that look like?
Well, you do have a lot of problems if you don't have the insurance, because lawsuits are going to take a while to resolve.
What's a while, though? I mean,
3 years, 5 years. These cases often take a long time. The later you file the lawsuit, the longer you're likely to wait. Even though I'm expecting all of the individual lawsuits to get coordinated into a master complaint, still there's benefits in being in the first group. So that's one thing. When you do have a lawsuit, some people sometimes will go for what's known as a non-recourse loan based on later recovery from the lawsuit. You don't want to do that with a lot of the money, but it's a way of getting a possible advance, sometimes $5,000 or $10,000.
Real talk, Brad. What the hell is $5,000 or $10,000 going to do for somebody who's lost their home? You could pay $5,000 a month in rent, right? And isn't that an expensive kind of loan that money's not free?
It's not free, but you only pay it back if you recover. Just like with us, we only get paid if we win. So the evidence is very strong, in our opinion, that Southern California Edison is responsible for this terrible tragedy, and that helps. And then, just like any other situation, folks are going to, unfortunately, have to be using their savings, working. You're still going to earn money through your job, so getting some money up front helps you to get back on the path. But the problem is when you're someone like Tony's parents, grandparents, they're 86 years old, and one of them is ill, they're not going to be able to work. And in that case, things like a GoFundMe can really help, and I know they have that, because we all need to come together as a community to help those folks in need. But it's a very sad situation. They lose their homes, they lose their memories, they lose their security, and now they're facing financial distress. It's horrible.
Tony, I want to talk back to you. Tell me a little bit more about your grandparents, right? I mean, they lived a long life, right?
Yes. What's intense about them, they got married when they were 19 and 20 years old. And they were born in 1938, so they didn't walk around with a computer, phone. This was before computers.
He plays the guitar, your grandfather, and he loved singing, right?
Yes, he would sing every single morning.
Every morning?
Every morning he walks around with the guitar singing around the house. Mm-hmm. So then when the disaster happened, we said, let's just make a video where we can share who you guys are, and hopefully people who don't know you will love you enough to say, here's $1 or $2 to rebuild in. Mm-hmm. And he sung to her, and the video went viral. But it's just him in love with his wife, and that's what they're doing nowadays, just being in love. But they got married at 19 years old and 20 years old, saved up by hand making tacos and burritos, and they would sell them on the honor system. They leave the burritos at each job site with a tip jar, and then they would go and pick up the money at the end of the day. It took them about a little over a year or two to save up $1,000.
Wait a minute. That is amazing. So they on the honor system, I'm like
on the honor system, handmade too. So it's not like you just press. Each one is handmade. And they saved up that $1,000, was able to get the home. They kept it for over 54 years, and they raised 5 kids in that home. And the community has been amazing. We had a lady, never met her before, said, "Hey, look, I want to give them a trailer." I said, "You got it. If you want to do that."
What kind of trailer?
It's like one master bedroom Jayco Eagle trailer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they can live in it right now. Right now we have it in front of the property, but that's the type of community that's coming to the rescue. Attorneys like Brad Gage, he's on point. He's already filed the case. So I'm in. Do you know how much stress that's taken off?
What was that stress like? Because you said you had maxed out with FEMA, you had maxed out with the American Red Cross, and how are they? You say they're doing better because they're just good spirited people, right?
That's why. They're not doing better because, we made enough money to rebuild the home. No, we're doing better because what we're trying to do now is we're trying to take what we have and present it to Habitat for Humanity and World Vision and say, World Vision, can you please donate the materials for Habitat for Humanity to rebuild? We'll give you everything in our GoFundMe. We'll give you this trailer, and we'll ask the news to come and record a story and tell everyone about how you guys saved the day for us.
Brad, we know, and we learned this from attorney Ben Crump, right, that Edison should have de-energized the power lines. What needs to change? Is this just human error, or is this just negligence? Is it the collision of a perfect storm? What needs to change in this process?
Well, we need to hold them accountable, and that's what we're doing through the legal system. When you hold a wrongdoer accountable, they have to change their ways, because if there's billions of dollars that they're going to have to pay out this time because of allegations of negligence and wrongdoing, then we will hopefully see a change in the future.
Okay. I'm going to leave it right there with you two. I appreciate you coming in this morning and sharing your stories. Tony, our hearts are with you and your family.
God bless you, Mr. Farr, and your family. God bless you, Attorney Brad Gage. Thank you both.
And Brad Gage, of course, how can people find you real quickly?
They can contact me, Brad, at bradgagelaw.com. My phone number is 818-340-9252, 818-340-9252. When
we come forward, we have more to talk about only on KBLA Talk 1580. We got your black.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Grandma's hands clapped in church on Sunday morning. Grandma's hands played a tambourine so well. Grandma's hands used to usher out on one, and she say, Billy, don't you run so fast. You might fall on a piece of glass, and it might be snakes in that grass.
Welcome forward. KBLA Talk 1580. I'm James Farr, host of The Conversation Live, Altadena Rising. Grandma's Hands. Boy, I love that song. That's Jose James, if you're not familiar with him. He's an Altadena resident and probably one of the dopest jazz hip-hop artists. Jose is also a fire victim, and I'm a fan, and I've never met him. But if you know somebody that knows Jose, tell Jose to holler. I enjoyed seeing his show over at the Ford Theater sometime last year. As promised, she's back. She is here. I have a FEMA spokesperson in studio. March 31st is the absolute deadline to apply for FEMA aid. La-Tanga Hopes, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be able to share more information.
Okay, well, we're gonna get your mic adjusted just a little bit, so
more?
so we can hear you a little bit more.
All right, is that
so
better?
I'm gonna jump straight to it because I know there's a lot of misinformation out there about what FEMA can do and cannot do. But my question to you is, when is FEMA gonna step up, sit down, and hear the people? Stop dodging the community, sending them the 1-800 numbers, hurry up to apply, and then there's no results. When are y'all gonna sit down in the community and listen to people? We can't move any further if we don't think you're not listening. What's happening?
The first thing I would like to say is that there is a disaster recovery center literally located in the Altadena community. The address, 540 West Woodbury Road. That is your disaster recovery center. We are sitting down there. We have over about 25 staff members. Once you've completed your application, own it. Come on in, sit down, talk with us.
That's fine. No. I mean, but there's so much confusion, right? Some people don't even think that they need to apply for FEMA. And there's something about straight winds. If you were affected by a windstorm, you should be applying regardless.
Let me give you some information. Anybody listening to me, please hear this. This declaration is outlined as California wildfires and straight line winds. So what that means is if your house did not burn down, it may still be standing. But if you incurred damages from the fire on any level or from wind or anything else subsequently dealing with the event that took place on January 7th, apply for FEMA. Let's get you started.
Now, what's this thing that, I've heard people talking in the community that if you have a GoFundMe, like you heard Tony in our last segment saying that they have a GoFundMe and that's been sustaining them. I mean, that's crowdfunding. People are looking for relief from the government. What's up with that?
The key word here is double dip. And what we mean by that is this. If you receive funding from other resources, great. Just make sure that you're not utilizing those funds for the same thing that you may receive funding from FEMA for. And we pretty much outline what types of funding that we can provide for you. We earmark that information and say that this money should be allocated for certain resources. Just make sure you use that money for FEMA. And anything else that you use or that you receive from other resources, just simply use that for other items that you may need to help with your recovery efforts.
So if I hear you correctly, don't say that this is for that on one page and then say something and then you want to apply for FEMA for something else. I'm still confused. Well, let's clear this up, unless you can answer that, because I don't know if I understand what you're saying, and I don't know if I have enough time to drill down. Right?
I'm a professional. Go for it.
Okay. So are you saying do your GoFundMe for one purpose and your FEMA application for another?
Do your GoFundMe. Okay. Let your resources come in.
Okay.
Be mindful that when you're taking this information, as anybody should do responsibly, just simply note what you're using the resources for.
How about this idea that if you do apply for FEMA, that it affects your Social Security, possibly your disability, and other type of benefits that you, Medicaid, Medicare, does it impact those areas?
This is why I love working for this company. We provide good news. Anything that you receive from FEMA does not impede on any of your resources that would come from any government funding. It does not impede on your ability to file your taxes. You do not need to report this information. This is a gift from the federal government at no cost, and there is no blowback.
I don't know. I mean, is it a gift or
not really?
Is it,
that's probably not a good choice of word. But at the same token, what you need to know is this: you can arrest that the funding that you're receiving is going to be useful, and you don't need to worry about itemizing it later on your taxes. You don't need to figure out how to justify it. If you have like funding coming in from other resources or anything, use that money and it helps you kickstart your recovery.
Whose job is it to track how many people are displaced? Because last week you said about 6,000. Now, me doing my elementary math, there's over 9,000 structures, right? Per the census, Altadena has 2.8 residents per household.
Okay.
If I use my fingers, toes, and carry the one, that's well over 27,000 people.
Okay.
How'd you get 6,000?
6,000 is the amount of structures that burned down.
We're hearing 9,000. So is it 9, 6? And this kind of comes into this space of information trust. I'm trying to let people know what's really happening. So is it 6, 27. I guess my question is, who's tracking the displaced people?
We have very responsible people that keep up with this information. And when you're reading details, make sure that you're not conflating everything that's been put together for all of the county. Because remember, there were 2 huge fires, one for Pacific Palisades and one for Altadena. And I bet you that when you look at that information, you'll find that the 6,000 structures that burned down focuses on Altadena, where the other 3,000 may be for Pacific Palisades.
Well, what I do know is 3 times 6 is still 18 all day, right?
And there may be other people that may be included with that as well.
Okay. We're winding, but what's the most important thing that people need to know about this March 31st deadline? I'll keep mentioning it, and then give me that. What's the most important thing that they need to know about this March 31st deadline?
There are 3 important deadlines. The first one is that FEMA disaster assistance deadline will occur on that date. If you have not applied for FEMA, all of these resources that we're talking about, and again, remember, this is well over $40,000 for people who's lost everything. It doesn't mean everybody's going to get that, but it could be that much and more. Then for people that may need small business administration support and resources. Again, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're talking about the ability to be able to repay this over 30 years and the competitive rates that they offer, which is probably half of what you'd find in the national rates. So
you're talking about a loan. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to answer this, and then I'm going to have to move forward.
Okay.
When are y'all leaving town? Because there's belief in community that you're leaving on the 31st. What's the date that FEMA will be or leaving?
Let me tell you something about FEMA.
No,
we're going to be here as long as we're needed.
That is not an answer. What's the date? How long will FEMA be here on the ground? That's the real question.
You do understand that when there's a disaster that there is not a deadline date. The disaster has taken on a life of its own. Mm-hmm. Our agency response is going to be take on the life of what is needed in the community.
Okay. Will FEMA show up in the community and actually sit down? I'm not talking about the DRC, the disaster management system. The invitation has always been out there, right? But it's time that you guys, FEMA's held 2 virtual meetings. Right. Those are very moderated. Yes, they take some questions a little bit. But when are y'all going to really get in the community and get that smoke? Right. That's the burning question.
Here's my petition to you. Find some people in the community that would want to host this event. Have them get in touch with you. You get in touch with our people. And this does not put you in the source as being the person. Let's get together and talk about this and see if we can accommodate what it is that you believe that your community and your listeners need. And we will try to acquiesce to that request.
La-Tanga Hopes, she is the spokesperson with the FEMA disaster here in Altadena, the Eaton Canyon fire. Thank you so much for coming back into the studio this morning and sitting in that hot seat.
The seat is hot.
The seat is hot. When we come forward, you're welcome. When we come forward, I'll have some more updates for you. KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to The Conversation Live, Altadena Rising. I'm your host, James Farr. We got a lot to talk about.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580. This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
And welcome forward. It's Conversation Live, Altadena Rising. I'm your host, James Farr. Looks like we got a caller calling in this morning. Juliet from Watts, are you there? Did we lose Juliet?
Yes, I am, and to God be the glory, and to our righteous ancestors and righteous elders. I just wanted to give you guys a shout out and a clarion call to keep you guys uplifted, to keep doing what you're doing. See, my favorite person was Ida B. Wells, and it's the people that's getting the information out, because it's a lot of stuff that they're doing with the Red Cross and the Salvation Army, all that mess. But I really kind of want to push back on what the FEMA representative said.
Talk to me. We got a few minutes. What you got for us, Juliet?
Yes, I know some people personally in Altadena and Pasadena, and they only receive $750, and it's like, it's so much going on to where, it's some people that need to step forward and it's like, look, check this out. Y'all got millions and billions. Bring some of that money.
You know,
people don't need to be doing those
that's exactly what Martin Gordon last week said.
And billionaires.
Yeah, you know, but the government does have a responsibility. I mean, do you agree, Juliet, or is I mean, I know at the station we say we keep us safe, right? So it is our responsibility in the black community to take care of ourselves.
Because we've been putting federal taxes and everything else, and the federal government is responsible for this type of stuff. I don't really like the way they use our people to be the spokespersons and to get up there and get caught. You know, I know she's doing the best she can, but I'm really not trying to hear it.
You're not trying. Did I press her? Did I press her too hard?
No, you didn't press her hard enough.
Okay, well, I'm gonna note that. Why don't you call FEMA and tell them they need to come sit down in the community and listen to the people? Can we do that together?
Yes, we can. We can send out clarion calls and see. This ain't for everybody, but this for everybody.
This ain't for everybody, but you sound like you're part of the KBLA Talk 1580 delegation.
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, we gonna keep pressing them. I appreciate your call on this weekend, sister. Keep in touch with us. Make sure you download the app. When we come forward, I'm going to have a final thought and a message for you before we get ready to sign out for the weekend. Only on KBLA Talk 1580, unapologetically progressive.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580. Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
And welcome forward. KBLA Talk 1580. This is Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, and I am your host. That's our Saturday morning slap. I usually end the show each week with a song that kind of speaks for us, but we did it a little bit different. I wanted to put that ahead of signing out this morning. First, I want to give up some updates real quick. The FEMA disaster number is 800-621-3362. That's 800-621-3362. You can also visit them on FEMA disasterassistance.gov. That's disasterassistance.gov. I have been accused of having an old soul. That's why I wanted to take you back to 1976 when the OJs, very prophetically and profoundly talked about a message in their music. And I think that's what Sister Juliet was talking about, calling us from Watts, is that she was putting out a clarion call. As you know, this is the show of record, and we are chronicling this for the nation. I'm going to take a quick opportunity to just set some record straight, right? And really talk to you. I've heard in the last three shows from many of you telling me what you want us to talk about. I welcome that. You can always go to the KBLA Talk 1580 app. There's a microphone icon there. You never know. You leave a message, your voice may make it into this conversation. You can also follow me on social media at at James Farr Live. Getting them DMs. Don't be creepy with it now. Don't do no weird stuff. But just, if there's something that you want me to know or you'd like me to look into, this is going to be a long journey for us. This is week number 3. We have now 49 more weeks, and we're balancing how we're going to tell these stories about this resilience, the recovery, the rebuild. But right now, folks need relief, and that's why I'm pressing FEMA like I'm pressing them. I see what's happening in the community. I spoke with the elder yesterday who told me such a horrible story of what her experience has been trying to get help with FEMA. And so, I'm going to continue to press FEMA, step up, show up, come into the community and get this smoke. But I also want to clear some things up and set a record straight. This, how I end up in this seat it wasn't an offer. It's not an opportunity. It's not something that I even asked to do. It was something that I was invited to do. And I'm grateful for our chief visionary officer, Tavis Smiley, for having the foresight that we are able to tell these stories. One of the things that Tavis and I agreed on, and again, we're transparent here. Tavis told me straight up, I'm not doing this for you, James Farr. I'm doing this for Altadena. And it was when he made that declaration to me that I understood what our mission is here. And had that not aligned, I could talk to over 200 of my friends who are now my community and extended family members who lost everything. And I want to talk to everybody else. But what you may see sometimes through this journey is a lot of connection. You'll see people that I've known for 20 and in some cases much longer in the years that I've been in this community. And so that's the transparency of what we are here. I'm going to give myself permission to code switch. I'm going to give myself permission to just be my authentic self. The microphone is much bigger, but communicating with you is what we want to do on this show of record that we are chronicling for the nation. Angela Reddock Wright is up next.